It was 8 o'clock on a sharp October morning. I was heading west to catch the furthermost ferry trip in the Clyde Coast. We passed the picturesque Cloch Lighthouse as we left McInroy's Point in the outskirts of Gourock on our way to Hunter's Quay at the mouth of the Holy Loch. What is strange about this trip is that there seems to be a fair bit of island hopping, but there are no islands involved. Hunter's Quay is in the deeply indented Cowal Peninsula, and we're heading over to catch the ferry from the little village of Portavadi to Tarbet on the Mull of Kintyre. A little winding, undulating 27-mile single-track road weaves its way around forest and crag. The road trip from Gourock to Tarbet would take over 100 miles. And before we knew it, we were on our way. I've only ever made this crossing once before, on a trip to Oban with Roberta. That was about 12 years ago. The closer we got, the more attractive this little village became. We were preparing to dock. Soon everyone was ashore. A little fishing boat headed into Loch Fyne. I headed into the village and left the slipway buildings behind. Overhead I got my first view of Tarbet Castle, sitting in a rocky knoll in the heights above. The main part of the village and most of the shops are lined around the head of the loch. It was a lovely mild day. As I made my way in, I noticed an attractive little whitewashed building just ahead. There was an info board and a short railed walkway beside it, so I went for a closer look. Tarbet is a beautiful little village, and the view of the northern part of the bay and its attractive row of colourful houses from the walkway certainly catches your eye. There are quite a few shops in the village. They're mostly on the south side, or at the head of the loch. The Corner House Bistro got a good write-up in TripAdvisor, and the attractive Starfish restaurant with its blue shutters did even better. It sits in a wee side street just behind the pub. The wee white building we stopped at earlier is a bit of an arts and crafts shop. It was the former Weybridge Administration building and the office for the operator. The old Weybridge is still there. It would have been used to weigh all the commercial vehicles using the port and their cargoes too. I made my way back over the old Weybridge and on to the head of the bay. This old original Thomas Telford harbour is built around Tarbet's wonderfully picturesque U-shaped bay. At the head of the bay, a road rises and continues westward, across the 1-mile strip of land to reach West Loch Tarbet. The road continues to give a choice of 4 other ferries before it peters out at the end of the road, which is 46 miles to the south. Tarbet has a very attractive seafront. I never noticed it before. When I visited, the shows were lined along the harbour side. Even worse, tourist traps were designed with Roberta in mind. And when she arrived in port, bank card in hand, disaster. It was Tarbet's half day and the shops were all closed. Looking back the way I come in, Tarbet Castle is now quite prominent above the village. It was now time to visit the castle. The path to the castle gradually climbs above the village. I had to keep turning round. The backward view was absolutely stunning. As you get higher, a natural amphitheatre opens up around you. The old parish church with its distinctive square tower sits in a commanding position at the end of the bay, overlooking the village below. It was built in 1775. I had reached the info boards. It was written that Robert the Bruce made many visits by boat to the castle here. This was a strategic bay, and with its commanding castle it would have been easy to control movement from here, both up and down the Mull of Kintyre. Much of the castle is now no more than mounds in the ground. You think you're climbing up a wee hillock, but when you take a closer look you realise that that's all that's left of a castle wall. These parts are pretty much all that remains of Bruce's castle. This part is a bit more obvious. From here you have a good view of the bay below. Tarbet Castle was built in the 1200s, probably on top of some other structure, because in the early days this was the ancient Gallic kingdom of Dalriada, and the seat of power was only a few miles up the road at Dinard. The castle was added to and reinforced by Bruce in the 1320s. He was holding back the English from the south and also defending his lands from the Lord of the Isles in the north. The tower house that remains is the most intact part and was built in the 1500s. The Lords of the Isles did take it for a while, but James IV took it back. It was still being fought over in the 17th century, but at the end of the next century it was being described as a fine old ruin. I headed down to the front of what remained of the castle. There were several lights there, so it must be lit up at night. I could see the jetty buildings at the mouth of the loch below, so it's easy to see what the castle was put here for. And with that I started to make my way back down for the ferry back. Then I watched the ferry making its way over. I would get it back on the return journey. I watched as the cars made their way on board, and I headed down. And we were soon on our way. This ferry was only introduced in 1994 for a 1-year only trial, and it turned out to be a resounding success. As I left Tarbet, I reflected on a most enjoyable trip.